Rats in a Cage by Cadell Cook. 2 rats in a cage, one brown and one white. The brown lives on the left side, while the white stays on the right. Every morning, they are fed by a gloved human hand. They each get a serving of 15 grams. They eat and they play and they run on their wheels. They tumble and frolic between each of their meals. The brown rat is called Jim, and the white is named James, because aside from their fur, they're exactly the same. One day, a gloved hand descends from the sky, picks them both up and raises them high. Jim says to James, "Where will we go?" James replies, "I simply don't know." The hand places Jim in a very tight room. James gets the same, is what Jim assumes. Suddenly, a wall slides up with ease, and Jim smells the fragrance of sweet, sweet cheese. His instinct takes over, and he runs at full steam. He dodges red balls and leaps over beams. He squeezes through pinholes, and at the end, the cheese has been eaten by James, his friend. "Phew," says Jim. "How'd you get here so fast?" James says, "I smelled the cheese and took off in a blast." The gloved hand appears, scoops them both up, and places them next to the watering cup. "I get it," says Jim. "That was a race game. Next time, I'll get to the cheese first, James." "You're on," he replies. After the water is drained, they go to their wheels, and they begin to train. The next day, after their morning meals, the gloved hand removes them from their wheels. It places Jim in his room once more, and the wall slides away just as before. This time, Jim doesn't wait for the smell. Now he's a lion, hunting gazelle. He runs and he jumps, and he slides on his knees. He hurdles and flips to get to the cheese. Jim reaches the end, but with cheese on his chin. His best friend, James, says, "I win again." Before Jim can shed a single tear, from the sky, the gloved hand appears. It scoops them and drops them down by the water. There, both rats teeter and totter. James saunters off, saying, "I need a rest. All of that cheese has taken my breath." "How could this be?" Jim the brown rat exclaims. "I hopped, skipped, and jumped to win at that game." James, the white rat, lies down in his bed and asks, "Why didn't you simply run straight ahead?" The white rat sleeps, and the brown rat trains, and the white rat snores and the brown rat strains. The very next morning, Jim is pumped. He's ready to slide and run, spin, and jump. James rolls out of bed, and with a yawn, he smirks before saying, "Let's get it on." They eat, and they wait for the start of the race, and the gloved hand takes them to their starting race place. Just as before, up slides the wall. Jim the brown rat gives it his all. Still, at the end of this difficult race, James the white rat has cheese on his face. Within the next 125 days, 58 rats move into the cage. There's just enough space on each side to move around, with 29 new whites and 29 new browns. The brown rats train, but they rarely succeed at winning the race and tasting the cheese. And the few times they do win the charge, it seems they have to work 3 times as hard. The browns say the whites are cheating somehow. The whites say they simply run faster than the browns. They bicker and argue amongst themselves inside of their cage atop of a shelf. Yet no rat tries to understand the man behind the human hand. You see, the race has been designed to keep the rats from being aligned. The brown rats crawl and stretch and bend. They leap and sprint to reach the end. The white rats always run their best. They give their all and nothing less. But their path to reach the cheese has only one hurdle, as high as their knees. If the 2 colors were ever to unite, the whites with the browns or the browns with the white, there'd be too much weight on either side, and the cage would creak and tip and slide. The cage would fall, and the lock would break, and every rat of every color would be free to escape. The man needs the rats every second, minute, and hour, because without the rats, he'd have no power. So he made up the race to make them quarrel, to make the browns question morals, to make the whites hold contempt, distracted by the cheese's scent. The rats stay divided in this man-made plight, where the browns are always left and the whites are always right. To this day, on either side, two lonely rats you would find, one named Jim and one named James, because aside from their fur, they're exactly the same.